Hi everyone, welcome back to another lesson. Today we're diving into relative clauses. What are they? Why do we use them? And most importantly, how can they help us sound more natural and fluent in English? Stick around, and by the end of this lesson, you'll be using them like a pro. Let's get started. Before we jump into relative clauses, let's go over the basics of sentence structure. A simple sentence has just one subject and one predicate. It's a complete thought all by itself. All the simple sentences can be divided into unextended simple sentence. That's example for that winter has come. Where winter is a subject, what are we talking about? And has come, what happened? That's a predicate. This is a super basic sentence that's short and sweet. What about extended sentences? Winter, with its biting cold and heavy snowstorms, has finally come. What's different? We've added extra details with its biting cold and heavy snowstorms, but the sentence has just one main clause, still has one main clause. The key points here are both of these sentences are grammatically correct. The second one gives more context and detail, still just one independent sentence. Now, if you want to combine two complete thoughts, we need a compound sentence. These are two independent clauses joined by coordinating conjunctions, like, and, but, and so, or so. Look at the first example, please. Jane was washing up in the kitchen and her sister was ironing the linen. The first clause here is Jane was washing up in the kitchen. The second one is her sister was ironing the linen. And is a coordinating conjunction. Try to analyze the next sentence in the same way. It was midnight and there was no one in the street. That's right. So we should take away the main points here. Each part of a compound sentence can stand alone. We connect them by coordinating conjunctions and, but, and many others. But the main thing here is that compound sentence make your writing flow better. All right, now let's level up our sentence game. Complex sentence. Complex sentences contain one independent clause and at least one subordinate, dependent clause. Look at the sentence, please. Careful shoppers compare prices, which could vary a lot. Let's break it down a little. The main clause here is careful shoppers compare prices. Could vary a lot, that's dependent clause or subordinate clause. Which is a relative pronoun that introduces the dependent clause. The main ideas here are complex sentences help us add detail and explain ideas more clearly. The subordinate clause depends on the main clause. We use words like because, although, since, when, if to introduce them. And now it's your turn to define the types of the sentences. Think over and say if they are simple, extended or unextended, compound or complex. Identify the main and subordinate clauses. Pause the video to complete doing the exercise, cause now I'll show you the answers. Count the number of correct answers and try to understand your mistakes. Word order in English is super important. Get it wrong and your sentence might mean something completely different. Let's watch at the first sentence. It's the most impressive tower clock I've ever seen. That sounds weird. Tower clock sounds strange in English. The correct phrase is clock tower. So, the correct sentence sounds like, it's the most impressive clock tower I've ever seen. Look at the example 2. We have a parrot in the cage that talks. The first sentence makes it sound like the cage is talking. Moving that talks next to parrot makes the meaning clear. So the correct sentence is, we have a parrot that talks in the cage. So the pro tip here is, keep words that belong together close together. Follow natural English word order. If your sound sounds weird, try rearranging it. Now it's high time for the next practice. In this exercise, you will practice constructing sentences with correct word order. Some of the sentences below are not ideal. Improve the word order in them. Pause the video if you need. Here are the answers to the exercise. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Relative clauses help us add more details to our sentences without starting a new one. Let's look at the example. My friend lives in a small village which consists of 100 of houses. The main clause here is my friend lives in a small village, which consists of 100 of houses. That's a relative clause. Relative clauses usually start with relative pronouns. The key takeaway is here that relative clauses add extra information. They start with relative pronouns like who, which, that, whose, where. They help make sentences more descriptive and natural. Look at the sentence, second example. I don't have the CDs you are looking for. Guess where the main clause is and where relative clause is. Not all relative clauses work the same way. Some are essential, they are defining, while others just add extra details, they are non-defining. Look at this sentence. The girl who is wearing a red dress is my sister. We need who is wearing a red dress to know which girl we are talking about, and that sentence is essential. Look at the second sentence. My brother, who lives in London, is coming to visit. We already know who my brother is, so who lives in London just adds extra information. The key difference here is that we never use commas to separate clauses in in defining sentences. But we should always use commas if we add extra information. So, if the sentence is non-defining. Mind, please, that the word that can only be used in defining clauses. Once again, let's have some practice. You are given exercise 3 now. Put the ideas together to make sentences with relative clauses. If you need, as usual, you may pause the video because after that I'm going to show you the answers. This time, you will have to say which of the sentences below contain defining clauses or non-defining clauses. Read carefully and try to understand. Then after that, match please A or B. If you need some more time, take your time, just pause the video as usual. I'm going to show the correct answers in a second. So count your correct answers, try to analyze the mistakes, and after that, probably let's go to another step. Here is one more important tip about relative clauses. Sometimes clauses in the sentences can refer to the noun only. John wrote me the letter that upset me. So I was upset by the letter. Or they can refer to the whole sentence. John tore my letter up, which upset me. So I was upset this time that John had torn my letter up. So here is one more example. Try to analyze it and answer. And now more practice. In this exercise, you will have to say which of the sentences the relative clause refer to the whole sentence. If you need some more time, take your time, please. Pause the video. Now I'm going to show you the answers. Sentences 2, 3, 5, and 8. In these sentences, relative clauses refer to the whole sentence. Did you know that sometimes we can leave out who or that? Yep. Let's see when we can and when we can't do that. The book that I borrowed is very interesting. The book I borrowed is very interesting. Nothing important changed. So a mission is possible here. The girl who sings beautifully is my friend, who cannot be removed here because that's the subject. Tip: if the relative pronoun is the object, you can drop it. But if it's subject, keep it. Let us have final review. I hope our lesson today was rather informative and it was rather active. So, we have covered today what sentence structures are and the types of sentence structures, what complex and compound sentences are and the main difference between them. Why is word order so important in English language? What relative clauses are, the difference between defining and non-defining clauses, and when to use and when to omit who or that. Now it's your turn. Try using clauses in your own sentences and see how natural they sound. Keep practicing, and I hope I will see you in the next lesson.